In his postseason press conference, Masai Ujiri addressed that the Raptors need to add in a rim protector in the offseason, but this is a void they could fill in the second round of the draft. So in today's video, I'm going to let you know why the Raptors could draft Ismael Kamagate with the 33rd overall pick. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? Jacob here from Amateur Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, I bring you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news at least 3 times a week. So if you like what you see from today's video, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're on our road to 10,000 subscribers, and with the NBA draft just a couple of days away, we're gonna have a lot of great content very soon. Talk about our picks, talk about what the Raptors could be doing for the future that you will not want to miss. But our video today, we are breaking down everything that you need to know about Ismael Kamagate and why the Raptors could select him with the 33rd overall pick, and we're going to find out what I think about this pick, if it would be a good selection for the Raptors. So throughout the video, what we need to cover are, first of all, we need to figure out who is Ismael Kamagate. Then we are going to talk about his stats overseas playing in France per game. Then we are going to go into his strengths, his weaknesses, and we're going to finish on a player comparable that you're going to want to see, so make sure you're sticking around for the video. So who is Ismael Kamagate? Well, he is a 21-year-old French center playing for Paris basketball in the professional league in France. So playing with grown men, always a decent sign to see with prospects trying to make it into the NBA. He's about 6'11" and has a wingspan of 7'3". This actually wasn't measured at the combine. This is just a report, but 7'3" seems like it is accurate. And that is definitely something the Raptors could be wanting to work with in this player, Ismael Kamagate. So playing professionally overseas, he is a French player. So, he's not somebody from America who decided to go there to play with some grown men. So he's been playing there. He's been doing quite well. We're going to get into his stats now just to see how well he was playing in this professional league. So for starters, he was averaging just over 11 points per game at about 11.3, along with 6.3 rebounds. At about per 36, I believe that's between 8 and 9 rebounds per game. So nothing tremendous for a center, but decent nonetheless for somebody at 6'11". Then we go into his assists, where he has 0.7 assists. Actually, I didn't write it down here. His turnovers per game were just about 1.6, 1.7. So assist to turnover ratio isn't very good in that regard. We go to his blocks, 1.6 a game, pretty good for somebody at that height. Then we go into the field percentages, and this is what you really like about him. 64% shooting from the field, and from the line, just about 65%, which definitely could be a little bit better for somebody like Ismael Kamagate, who is a true center. You'd like to see that above 70%, or at least 70%, so maybe not quite exactly what we want in the player. But make no mistake, this is absolutely a true center. This is a guy who runs rim to rim, plays on the interior on both ends of the court, tries to hold down the paint on defense, can kind of operate as the defensive anchor for a team, and on offense, likes to operate in the paint, can kind of run in the pick and rolls. That's just a style of player that he is. It is something that the Raptors do not have in their system. It is something the Raptors 905 really did not have last season, especially at the end of the season. And the Raptors, the Toronto Raptors, all throughout the season, I mean, they just did not have any player like this. People wanted the Raptors add in this player. I think ultimately we were kind of comfortable with the position of this game that we are playing, but it could be time for the Raptors to add in somebody that could maybe develop with this 33rd overall pick, because there is definitely a good amount to like about Ismael Kamagate. So let's break down the strengths of the players. For starters, you gotta like the height and the size of this player. He is 6'11", like I said, with that 7'3" wingspan. I mean, that could be a little bit higher, but hey, that is definitely something that you can work with. Very athletic for his size. This is what a lot of scouts, a lot of fans are liking about this player. Like, I've seen a lot of Raptors fans talking about Kamagate on Twitter, online, all over the place, thinking he'd be a good fit at 33rd overall. One of the biggest things, again, the athleticism, plays above the rim, has very good hops for a player of his size, gets up quickly and has a good amount of hang time, throws down lobs, like that's one of the specialties as well for his game. The interior finishing, like he just dunks everything. Aggressive at the rim, very good finisher, just make sure that you are not going to get that block, and as far as playing above the rim, can do so on defense. He is a very good shot blocker. Timing is pretty good, just I would say a lot of his blocks do come from cheating a little bit on the weak side, which is something, that shows some good tendencies of blocking and timing, but as far as positioning goes, could be something that can be fixed. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Mid-range tendencies, they're decent. He can definitely hit his mid-range shots. They're not the most consistent. When he's wide open, the form looks pretty good. When he has to shoot with a little bit of a contest, that's when he kind of throws up a knuckleball. It's a little bit uglier, but there are some decent signs that you can work with as far as getting the mid-range up to an NBA level. Furthermore, we got the defensive anchor, the ability to just be that anchor on defense, like his mobility, his motor, allow him to play some pretty good defense in these positions. He's shown some good signs as far as, switching off in the pick and roll on defense to switch onto a guard, moves his hips really well, can kind of get his feet in position to make those sort of stops. Like somebody you can definitely trust on defense. Like if you're going to draft this guy, you're drafting him more so for his defense. He can be that defensive anchor, but also with that motor, can move up and down the floor with considerable ease, especially for a player of that size and in his position, which is something you definitely like. Also, offensively, in those pick and rolls, moves pretty well to the rim, moves pretty quickly to the rim. His movement is very good. Like he moves very well for somebody of this size. That's just the biggest thing about this guy for his size and why scouts are looking at him in maybe late first round, early second round. But you kind of heard me alluding to some of the weaknesses of his game, so that's what we got to break into at this point. And personally, I find there are a lot of weaknesses to his game, a lot more than I've seen with some other prospects in this range, but let's get into that here. First of all, his draft age, he's 21. You really want to work with somebody who's 20 or under when you're getting them in the draft, just to give them a little bit more time to develop that game for the NBA. So that's going to be a little bit of a knock against him. But I mean, you could produce some good players. You can definitely produce some good players despite their age being higher. So we'll see with this guy. But next is the floor spacing projections. Like I said, the mid-range shot is decent, still needs work. Does not project as a floor spacer, does not project as somebody who's ever really going to be able to hit threes in the NBA. Something to keep note of. Then his post-up game, very, very basic. I mean, he moves well. Like I said, he's very athletic, but it's a very one-dimensional post game. It's a very basic. It's a little bit easy to defend, and that's something that definitely needs to sharpen up at the next level. His basketball IQ in general just isn't great. Like, defensively can get caught biting on pump fakes a lot, sometimes a little bit out of position, like I was saying earlier. Defensively, his athleticism makes up a little bit for his positioning. Like he can, after kind of getting out of position, go and get that block, which is a little bit good to see, but ultimately that's something that can be fixed in the NBA, that needs to be fixed in the NBA. Offensively, doesn't occupy the right spaces when he's cutting to the rim. Like if he's open, yeah, he's going to throw down, but doesn't always get in those open positions, something to keep note of. The strength is also a problem, not a great post-up game mixed with, he's got a good frame, but he's just not that strong right now. It's for now thing because he is somebody who has a good frame that can fill out for the NBA. It's not there yet. That needs to change to compete in the NBA. Another thing about him is that, his rebounding, he's 6'11". He's going to get boards, but ultimately, he's not an elite rebounder. He's not as good of a rebounder as you would expect for somebody of that size. And, but that's down to positioning. That's just down to rebounding instincts. Some guys have it, some guys don't. It kind of seems to me like he doesn't. And the final thing is the playmaking. Not a great playmaker. Showed some flashes. Like if you look at his tapes and his highlights, there are some pretty good highlights of his passing, but ultimately it's inconsistent. He's not a good playmaker. The assist to turnover ratio is a really big problem for him, and these are all things that could hinder his ability to get to the next level and succeed at the next level in the NBA. So there's quite a little bit here, but nonetheless, let's go into the player comparable, the last thing that we do need to cover. And honestly, I struggled a lot to find a player comparable here. I think the best thing is a little bit of a mixture between Hassan Whiteside and Clint Capella. So, as far as the length goes, he moves really well for that size, similar to Clint Capella, who is a little bit smaller, but these are guys who kind of anchor the defensive unit. They get block shots. They're not going to really be playing on the perimeter. They can, if they have to, they move their feet all right. And on offense, they operate in the pick and roll. They operate above the rim, like especially Clint Capella, who can finish above the rim, who throws down lobs with such ease. He's that type of player to me. A little bit of a blend between these two guys, minus the Hassan Whiteside and Clint Capella rebounding. Both of them are great rebounders. Not the best from Kamagate, but ultimately, I think that's a pretty good indication of what you're sort of going to get. It's just rim-to-rim type of play for Kamagate. So overall, as far as the Raptors drafting this player with the 33rd overall pick, there's a lot of Raptors fans online who are really interested in drafting him. I don't really feel that. He's a very raw prospect that needs a lot of work. But if there's an NBA team, potentially the Raptors, who really want to put in that work to make him a good player at the next level, then they could see some success. He's clearly very athletic for his size. He clearly has some good tendencies. He needs a lot of sharpening and a lot of polishing. If the Raptors want to do that, then, you know, you might get a really good player out of it. You might get a really good center out of it. He's got the upside of somebody who could go mid to late first round. Just with the raw prospect being a raw prospect, I see him slipping into the second round. That's just my opinion here. The Raptors gave him a workout. I don't really understand why they did not give Christian Koloko a workout, who is somebody I did in a previous video, something like this. Really like Christian Koloko, and Koloko is better than Kamagate in, to be honest, like every way imaginable, in my opinion. Other than maybe frame and sizing, Koloko is better in every way imaginable. So if he's available, if they're both available and the Raptors want a center, it's got to be Koloko. If the Raptors were to select Kamagate, listen, as far as it goes to the draft, I kind of say this sometimes, like, you expect every player in the draft to be good. That's why they get drafted. So to say somebody's not going to be good that could get drafted, like, you're only setting yourself up for failure, because they're all expected to be good. So if you say somebody's going to be good and they are good, like, oh, okay, great. If you say somebody's going to be good and they're not good, well, you know, every player is supposed to be good. But if you say somebody's supposed to be bad and they turn out to be good, like, you look like an absolute idiot. But that's not what I do here at Amateur Sports. I'm here to give you my true and honest opinion, as always. Kamagate at 33rd overall, I'm not a particular fan of that. I don't think the Raptors should draft him 33rd overall. If they do, I wouldn't say I'm going to be upset. I'd just be like, okay. You know, that doesn't really excite me a ton, but evidently, Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, whoever on the Raptors, Tolzman, anybody within that front office system, they've seen something that maybe I don't see. They've seen something in that workout or just by scouting him. They've done a lot of scouting on him, by the way. They've gone to France to see him quite a few times. They must see something that they can truly work with in the player, and I'll completely respect that. This is not going to be somebody I'm just like completely red light, do not draft. But I would say, you know, this isn't somebody I would probably go into the draft wanting to take. If he's available, personally, I would pass at 33rd overall. So what's your overall opinion on Ismael Kamagate? Were you a fan of him and now you're no longer a fan, or are you still a big fan? Were you never a fan? I want to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Try not to roast me too much, because I know Raptors fans are really interested in this guy. But thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you did enjoy, drop a like, understand my side of this story, and support the channel. When you drop a like, it helps let YouTube know that more people just like you who have similar interests might also enjoy this video, so recommend it to more people. Takes you a second to do, helps me out a ton. And make sure, if you are new and you enjoyed the video, that you subscribe to Amateur Sports. We're on a road to 10,000 subscribers, and there's so much great content on the way that you do not want to miss as we get into the draft, as we get into free agency. I'm going to give you all the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. Join our Discord. I'm going to be going live for the NBA draft on my Twitch streams, twitch.tv/amateursports. 30 minutes before the draft is scheduled to begin, I'm going to be giving you full breakdowns on everybody getting drafted, especially who's going to get drafted by the Toronto Raptors. Don't miss out. See you again next time for another video.